So starting out, just to tell everybody, Glam, what is Glam? And some of the numbers that are staggering.
Yeah. So we are a technology company and a media company from the US, from Silicon Valley, Brisbane, California. What we do is we focus on the lifestyle vertical, and we aggregate niche or expert websites. In fact, we have meanwhile 200 million users in the Glam universe.
200 million?
Worldwide.
So I was 100 million wrong, I'm sorry about that.
That's the US, there are 60 million in Europe.
Wow.
And then across Asia and Latin America.
And what kind of sites are there? Just name some of the bigger ones.
So, you know, it's fashion blogs, yeah, primarily. And in the fashion vertical, we have beauty blogs. It's, you know, websites from experts. They're not necessarily media companies. It could be, you know, in the food vertical, maybe some excellent chefs, you know, they have their own website, they report.
So you call them and
trends.
you say you sell their advertising and you connect them to all the other users, or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the beginning we really had to go out and, I guess, educate the publishers or the bloggers or the experts on what we are doing. And the business is really designed around sort of the fragmented internet world, right? There are more and more websites all over the world, not only from traditional publishers, but, you know, from people who know something well and, you know, have passion to create content. And via technologies such as WordPress or others, you know, they can publish this content, and users on the other side, they find that content using Google, right? Nobody gives in Google and just enters, let's say, fashion. They look for very specific things these days. They look for grassroots street fashion Berlin or something like that. And then they find whatever, you know, 5,000 results or 100,000. And so there's this user behavior, and it's basically in Google terminology, it's the mid-tail or the long tail, and we focus here on the expert sites in the lifestyle space, aggregate those, and these days, you know, those publishers, they come to Glam. We sign every day, you know, several publishers. We have a few thousand now, and this overall is like in this universe an author base of 5,000 approximately.
And this is a completely new type of media company. It didn't exist before.
Yeah.
How do you see that you coincide with traditional media companies? Are you a threat to them? Are you a partner to them? Is it a new type of journalism, so it's completely different, or?
You know, I mean, the environment is entirely changing, yeah? So what we really try to do is create values for advertisers, right? Marketing solutions. So the advertising dollars follow the eyeballs, right? And so the eyeballs now are to a large extent, a tremendous extent actually, in the mid-tail, long-tail. But, you know, if you just go to Google, it's not really organized at all from an advertiser point of view. And actually, to make the point, Glam is really all about branding. It's not about, you know, performance, CPA, CPC deals also. It's really about a branding environment. And so we built, you know, solutions for advertisers, you know, to reach certain audiences in, you know, these channels that we are offering. And this can be not only, you know, media or advertising itself, you know, it can also be creative, innovative solutions, you know, bringing those authors, those bloggers, for instance, in, you know, they may report from fashion weeks or so and blog on this and, you know, create smart packages at the end of the day.
You're also in lifestyle and fashion and Condé Nast. Just a couple of words about Condé Nast, if there's anybody that doesn't know about it.
Okay, I'll try my best. Well, we are a worldwide publishing house. As you said before, we have a very long history going back, I think, more than 100 years. We have very strong brands such as like Vogue or Gentleman's Quarterly, Glamour and Architectural Digest, just to mention a few, or maybe Wired for this context. And are active in about, I think, 24 countries. Yeah, and we have several outlets, if you will. We're obviously coming from print magazines. That's the long history. But we've been able to extend that during the last couple of years, and all the innovations going on, so that we now have not only magazines but also, of course, websites and apps for iPhone, iPad, Android, and so on. So
I don't know if you're aware of that, but we own a media company in Sweden, where I'm the largest shareholder, and we're buying magazines because we think magazines are very cool if you connect them to the right things online. So how do you do that? You're heading up online or digital. So how do you take sort of the soul and the brand from the magazine and make sense out of it in digital?
Yeah, that's actually the starting point where we are coming from, because we We think that we have sort of the right toolkit. You know, we have a very, very high quality approach. That's sort of the core value of all Condé Nast publications. And we have very strong brands that are well known. I mean, everyone knows Vogue who's interested in fashion, and probably everyone who's interested in technology will know Wired. So we think this is a very good starting point, and we try actually to sort of translate or transpone that for the new media world. So we go and look at it and think about it. How should we do it? How could we do it right in this new channel? May it be the internet or may it be mobile.
What's the role of paper? Is that something that you're doing just because you have to, because you've done it before, or is it because you really, really like it and you think it has its role?
Paper is important. I mean, that's it's still the sort of the strongest core. It's nothing that we sort of leave aside and just go and run for new media. Not at all. It's actually that's different to many other publishing houses. With us, it's very strong. It's still the core business, but basically what we see is that that there's a chance for us to expand those brands into new channels. You know, define new offerings, and that there's also
how well
a
is
demand for that.
iPad selling, for instance, or other similar devices?
Sorry, what?
How well are you selling on iPads and other similar devices? Is it really picking up? Is that a meaningful business for you yet?
It's picking up, but it depends. I mean, we made a good learning. For example, last year we were one of the first to launch an iPad app, or we were the first fashion brand to launch an iPad app in Germany.
With the Vogue brand.
With Vogue,
yeah.
right? That was well recognized. But sooner, a couple of months later, we launched an iPhone app for GQ. And that was way beyond our expectations due to the simple fact that the potential is much higher. There are much more iPhones in the market than iPads have been at that point, of course, and also the user structure, the demography. It's male. It's a little older. So this is basically how we try to have a look at it and see, okay, what's the potential if we do this brand, or if we extend this brand to another channel? Is there other people out there who will be interested in seeing that, or is it maybe a little too early? Should we wait a little? That's how we look at it.
Both of you share one thing in common. You're not into sort of clicks and cost per order marketing and so forth. You are for strong brands, and you're providing a strong brand for them. How can you sort of motivate that to charge premium and to do display advertising online? Is there something like glossy online, if you understand what I mean?
You know, I don't think that actually online and offline differentiate there really a lot. You know, if you look into, let's say, traditional marketing tactics, right? There's where you sell, or direct marketing, where it's about lead generation, where it's about selling, you know, call centers and so on. And, you know, the same is happening online as well, right? So if all what you do is you have a product and you try to get a lot of traffic or leads and sell it, okay, that's one part of marketing. But, you know, you're basically getting a commodity very soon if you don't have a brand and an experience. And then it's all about, you know, cost leadership. And I mean, who can actually win with cost leadership? It's just very few players, actually. So, you know, companies really need to build their brands the same way they do it offline, online. And, you know, you shouldn't even really distinguish, because there's only one world, right, out there. And it's integrated. And so also your brand message has to be the same.
And are you able to sort of charge a premium because you're Vogue online as well as offline? Does it feel Vogue online as well?
That's our approach. Yeah, that's what we aim for. To offer the right user and the right context, and we define ourselves a lot about the quality of our content. We think that we are really in a very, very high and specific position, which may also be a smaller cut, but it's.
But if they say, well, but I get more clicks from Google here, and how many clicks will you actually get me? You don't get into that discussions?
Well, partially, of course, we do. I mean, that's the discussion you have, but we try to add another value to it, or at least our advertisers, we can convince them that we create an environment or a context where users are much more, where they are more in the mood for the advertisings that they see. This is why we also address a very specific group of advertisers. So there's a strong fit, and basically we have been able to transport the glossy image from print in the online or digital world. Yeah, that's how it works.
Well, you said something about sort of creating completely different advertiser solutions, and could you sort of share some examples of that? How can you work in a non-traditional way, non-banner, non-sort of traditional ways? How can you integrate content and the brands that you have with advertisers?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the beginning, there's a need of an advertiser that you have to understand, and then you map a solution against it. I'll give you an example. We work a lot with Mercedes-Benz out of their headquarters, and they sponsor fashion weeks all over the world.
They sponsor fashion weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they position the Mercedes-Benz in fashion content, yeah? So it's also called Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week New York, or Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Paris, or Berlin, etc., yeah? And so, you know, we build solutions for them for various countries. Yeah, we bring in fashion bloggers who then actually report live from the fashion weeks. They write about fashion, not about...
Paid for by Mercedes?
The bloggers are obviously being paid for going there and writing, but they're writing about the fashion week.
Yeah,
and then it's the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And the interesting thing overall is, you know, it all plays together, right? I mean, you have media exposure, yeah, and then it's sponsored by Mercedes-Benz because they are the official sponsor of those fashion weeks. Then you may have ads, you have social tools, such as, you know, we have an application, Tinker. It's basically a live conversation application where, you know, people can talk about twittering about, you know, fashion weeks and, you know. And you really have to look into sort of, you know, what technology enables you to do marketing-wise and how you map that against, you know, the marketing goals ultimately. And, you know, these kind of campaigns, this is not about clicks, yeah? And brand advertisers really shouldn't look at clicks at all. You know, it's misleading even. Because, you know, there are enough, you know, analysis on it, you know, which are actually the audiences that click. You know, there are only very few that click, but they click very, very often. And are those actually the ones you want to have? Yeah. So what really matters for your branding campaign? And maybe, you know, the industry, also the online industry, didn't really get it right, you know, to establish the right metrics at the beginning. And then with Google being so successful, you know, everyone was just looking at clicks, clicks, clicks. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's easy to understand click yes or no, you know, and then successful or not, but it's not what marketing is about.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I would, totally. Basically, we do a very similar thing, maybe on a little different level, but we also we don't really compare ourselves with what Google is offering. We do think that we have another offering to make, and we are certainly able to sell sort of the classic advertisement, but we also do a lot of custom solution advertising. For example, we did a very nice thing just recently for Glamour online. We produced makeup tutorials together with Dior. And that was something that, you know, Glamour is a lot about users wanting to learn how to, I don't know, they're really interested in beauty products. And this is something that actually the users appreciate and the advertisers do as well, because it's such a good and fitting combination.
Is advertising moving much more towards that and less, or will there be sort of, will banners be around 3 years from now? Will sort of the traditional, you know, email marketing is almost going away. Will the banner go away, and what will be sort of the new advertising formats that we'll see?
I don't think that the banners will go away at all. I mean, that they are established and they do work in certain parts, and for us it's a combination. We probably won't do just the custom solution part itself. It's usually, you know, we make it a package that makes sense to the advertiser's goals, and I don't see that disappearing right at the moment. No.
Do you see you guys as competitors? Or are you sort of swimming alongside in a big ocean and you know?
I think we certainly talk to the same agencies and to the same advertisers, no doubt about that.
So that's a yes?
That's a yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we compete for the same budgets, of course, but I think we get along quite all right. It's we have slightly different propositions to make, so so far it works well.
If you were an advertiser, what would you ask him?
Ask him?
Yeah.
Well, I would want to know a lot about the users, of course, that are on there, and I would want to know a lot about the context, because that would be important, you know, to sort of cut the right slice out of glam to reach my goals. Yeah.
And what would you ask if you were a critical advertiser?
I think, you know, I would really ask, I mean, advertising, and if you talk about brand advertising, it's really about engagement, and then for, you know, let's say premium consumer goods, it's about reach, right? And these are the two main components, and there's obviously no doubt, you know, that the Condé Nast products have a great media brand and reputation, but it's then also, I guess, sort of the reach factor, you know, and how does actually sort of the business translate, you know, from print to online. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about this.
So you wouldn't just buy that it's as good at online because it's a good magazine, you would like to benchmark it against other things?
Yeah, I don't think online and offline is the same, obviously. I mean, the behavior is different. You know, there are millions of websites out there, right? There are 1.3 billion users in Comscore worldwide, you know. It's not only that they read, you know, content, you know, they interact, it's social, right? They interact with their friends, they like things, you know, they forward, they comment on, so it's a much, you know, more comprehensive actually environment than just a media platform. And also, you know, when you were asking regarding the banners, sure, there will be banners, no doubt about it, but I mean, there are more and more new ad formats, and there are rich media formats, there are video formats, you know, the user can interact in the act. This is not just, you know, like media reach,
Is
right?
that making advertising less boring or more obnoxious?
I mean, it's up to you, you know, if you interact in the ad or not.
Yeah.
So if you like to get bored and find it boring and interact,
Yeah.
it's your call. But I think it's actually great, you know, advertising is really becoming more informative, also partly more entertaining, and you know, the user's in control whether or not they find it worth interacting with it. But it's actually a communication that's happening, you know, between the product or the brand and the user, you know, and it's also not done then, because you can still forward it, you know, you can comment on it. So, you know, it's a very complex environment, you know, and this is where brands often, you know, need help how to deal with it and how to
So
maximize
both
the
of you
value
become
of
sort
it.
of a consultant almost for the brand as well, because there's so many new things that can be done.
I think definitely, because you have to, and we work really very closely with the agencies, right, that specialize, you know, in this field too, or like the agency this morning, you know, brought up a couple of great examples. Yeah, it's more comprehensive. It's not only, you know, buying media reach and that's it, and then you could potentially just go to an ad exchange, you know, to a marketplace, which is basically an ad auction, which is good, you know, for a certain segment, but for marketing or branding solutions, you know, I think you miss the opportunity that online actually offers.
So what do you think happens with traditional media companies? So what are the risks in those traditional media companies? I mean, you work in not a traditional media company, but a company that's also traditional. What do you see as the risks with the old media model?
Well, I think that the biggest risk is to ignore what's happening and to sort of not look around yourself and try to take up what how users' needs maybe develop or readers' needs develop. I think that we are working hard to sort of have this process overall units. You know, we also want the print department to think about how a story will take place digitally, because that's something you would want to do in advance. You know, I mean, if you go out for a fashion shoot and afterwards you realize, you know, a video would have been nice, then it's too late. So the idea would really be to come from a content point and think about, okay, how we're going to play this on which channel, and what would there be that we could maybe add, you know, if we put this, or could we do this a little earlier on Facebook, have an editor maybe write some posts and saying, hey, I'm here shooting this, what you think of that? Those would be ideas that I think on the long term we will integrate more and more.
How do you look upon Facebook? Is that something that's good for you or bad for you, or a competitor, or?
You know, I mean, Facebook is obviously great for users, right? That's why there's 600-700 million users, so they go there for a reason. It's more than a site, right? Because it's just, I guess, sort of a floating model in a way, right? With the like buttons that you mentioned this morning. It's generating traffic, you know, for our sites, for our partners. So it's certainly a very good thing. Is it a competitor of ours. Sure, Facebook is also in the advertising space ultimately, but I think, with our branding solutions, it's very different to displaying ads in a Facebook environment. So I don't think it's exactly a competitor.
Between the two of you, you've seen a lot of advertising campaigns, you've seen a lot of initiatives. What would be some of the advice that you could share with the audience? Some of the things that this really seems to work every time, or this is really smart things to do?
Well, I would recommend to have a good talk with us, with our salespeople, because they know it best. They have all the experience, and I think that well, you need to be clear about what you want to achieve with your campaign, and then look for a good solution for that.
I'm not going to let you off that easy.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, but it is a good point. Why do you do the campaign? A lot of people, they buy reach, and then they measure clicks, and then they're disappointed, or they buy branding and they measure something else. So that's a starting point. But are there any other sort of formats or ways of doing things that you think is better than anything else?
Well, I think if your goal is branding, then you should think about an extraordinary way of positioning your brand. And I think we offer a lot of possibilities, or we have been offering a lot of possibilities to do that, and this really works. So, sometimes it just makes sense to think a little bit off the track, and couldn't we find a unique approach? What could we do together? As I said, a video maybe, or these sort of things that we've done in the past that's worked really well. And so if that's what you're looking for, I think that's a good idea to think about as sort of a custom-made, a tailored ad. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. There's not this secret sauce. This is the way the entire audience has to do it, and everyone is happy, because even if it was like this, if everyone did the same thing, it would be on par as well. But I think the key is really to understand the digital space and the tools and the tactics very well. Be very thorough there. Try things out. We had it earlier, with the business models, with advertising to some extent, it's similar. Establish sort of, metrics, what you want to accomplish, and this is not about clicks, it's about, different things depending on what the purpose of the campaign is and what space you are. And overall, where I guess many companies are actually lacking is really the allocation towards digital versus traditional media. It's still totally underrepresented if you look into the media consumption. Yeah? If you look into, how many hours, a user is spending online versus traditional media, and then you look what the advertising mix is, it's totally underrepresented. In, countries like UK or Scandinavia, I think it's something like 20%, that's spent in the digital space. In other countries, even the US, it's only like 10-ish, yeah? Germany as well.
So there's still a lot of opportunity.
There's a lot of opportunity, but it also means now, to answer your question from an advertiser point of view, do it quickly, because otherwise the others are doing it, and you will do it anyway, so why don't you do it right away?
So with that, and you're also going to be around here, we have to wrap up the session. Thank you very much. And big round of applause for the gentleman. Thank you very much.